Well, hello. Hello, and welcome to our special edition of our word of the day. This week, we're doing segments for couples. We're doing a couple seminar. If you missed Tuesday, if you missed yesterday, you need to go back and watch those. As a matter of fact, I was listening to Tuesday's session as I was coming in today. I'm telling you, so many nuggets in yesterday's
Powerful,
teaching by the Moores, so
powerful.
many nuggets in Tuesday's teaching by the Campbells, and I know you're going to be blessed by our guests today. So
Yes.
I want to encourage you to go ahead and go ahead and share, let someone know about this time, share because people need to hear these nuggets that are being shared by men and women of God. Don't you think
Yes.
so, Pastor?
Yeah, there are a lot of just integral pieces
Yeah.
to this tough assignment in
Yeah.
life called marriage.
Marriage.
And we are so grateful and thankful for our guests, first of all, for agreeing to come and to sort of tell their stories.
Right.
You know, one of the greatest challenges, I think, with marriage is that you don't know how to do it.
Right.
And you don't have any history. People
Right.
lack history.
Right.
And if you had more history, if you had more tools, and you had more transparency, and that's what I appreciated so much about our guests, is that they've been so transparent.
Right.
The guests today are Dr. and Pastor Willie B. O'Neill from the Mount Canaan Full Gospel
Gospel
Church.
Church.
And we've
And
looked
his
up to
wife.
them for such a very long time.
Yes, yes,
And-
Pastor Patricia O'Neill.
yes.
They are such a loving couple. They was just sharing with us before we went live that they will be celebrating in April 50 years of
Five
marriage.
zero.
So
50.
listen, the people that will be talking to you today, they have 50 years of history to
Yes.
share, and they have the stories. So we welcome them now. Hello, Dr. O'Neill, Patricia O'Neill. It's
Yes.
so good to have you all joining us today.
It was so good to be here with you
Yes.
all and to
Yes.
be able to share our experiences with everyone.
Good.
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
One of the things that we're so elated about having the two of you as our special guest is that we've been able to observe you all up close in certain seasons,
Yeah.
and then from afar in all seasons, and to watch your faith, to watch your examples of men and women of God, or man and a woman of God, to watch how God has used you to gracefully build that church and that ministry, and then to watch your family.
right.
And one of the things that have been so noteworthy for me is the fact that you all are the quintessentials, as far as I'm concerned, as far as blended families.
Yes.
I've never seen anything like
Yeah.
this. I promise you. We've traveled a lot, we've seen a lot of people, and we still know a lot of people. And we've seen blended families, but not to this degree.
Right. Right.
And to
Okay.
see two people to really do it well and to really share even with your congregation about how it's been going along those years.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I want you all to share your story. We'll get to the meat of it, but share your story. We're going to allow you all to talk now. And so kind of share history, share nuggets. Just feel free to be transparent with our audience.
Patricia is the history teller, so I'm gonna give her that opportunity. But before we go forward, I just want to say how grateful I am to have this opportunity to share with you guys. You talked about us, but I'm proud, godly proud of you guys and
Praise
how
God.
God has raised you all up and the blessing you all have been in our community and the lives that have been touched through your school as well as your church ministry and
Thank you so
just working together as a team all
Yes,
these
sir.
years has really been uh, made a indelible mark in our community. And I just
Thank
want
you
to
Praise
so
say
God.
much.
thank you. Thank you.
That
Thank
means
you.
so much coming from the both of you all, and thank you for your gracious comments. Or we just look up to you, and we thank God for the both of you all.
Praise God.
Okay. Y'all
And
ready?
what I want to
We're
say,
ready.
I'm
Okay.
opening.
Go ahead, baby.
When Patricia and I got married, all we had was goosebumps. You know, we had no idea uh, what was ahead of us. All we wanted to do is come together and uh, and marry one another. I didn't even consider the children. I didn't even think about it. She got two children, I got two children. How we gonna do this? I was in love.
Wow.
And as a result of that, man, saying I do, and I had two children. She had two children. We had one child. Yeah, right, out of wedlock. But all together we had two children together, and then we
Wow.
adopted one. And so it was like the Brady Bunch down there.
We left out
In
one.
real time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Go on, Tricia.
Okay. He started, but as he said, we came together. He had two, I had two. And then we had one out of wedlock, which made five. And so after that last baby, we ended up getting married. And as I told the church on this past Sunday, it's so amazing that we're talking about this because we just discussed this Sunday at the church.
Wow.
And we had
Wow.
a relationship this month. And I told the people how that we sat down together, first of all, and we corrected something in our lives, and that is asking God to forgive us for violating principles that God
Yes,
has
Wow.
ma'am.
set forth for one husband and
Right,
one wife.
right,
We could
Wow.
not go on and try to make wrong right
right.
without acknowledging the fact, I don't care how young we were, we violated principles. And when you violate principles, there are going to be consequences to follow those
That's
Mm.
violations.
that's right.
And so
Wow.
that's how we end up with your children, my children. And we have seen God do such a marvelous thing in our lives by bringing us together and working with us together. We said that we would spend the rest of our lives sharing with couples how
Yeah.
Yes.
to together, first of all, how to keep the devil out of your marriages without divorcing
Okay.
because of the fact that it's not easy to bring two blended families together. It's some
Yes.
suffering there. It's some dying there. It's some going
Wow.
back and dealing with your past
Right,
hurts and pains
right.
that can affect the kids as a result of what you brought them into. They didn't have
Right.
to
Wow.
come into this
Right.
situation.
Mhm.
You brought them into this situation.
Right.
So as a result of us bringing them into this situation, we said to each other,
Mhm.
if anybody gonna pain, if
We're
anybody
not
gonna
gonna
suffer,
suffer.
if anybody gonna hurt, it's gonna be us.
Mm.
Mm.
Not
We're not
gonna,
gonna blame the children for what
Not
we.
the children.
and we're not gonna allow certain things that came up in the marriage to affect the children. We're gonna take it and we're gonna deal with it, and they'll never know about it. That's
Wow.
what we decided to do. So he right. We had two, four, six. Then I had seven. Then we took on his sister's child in the fourth grade.
Wow.
And eight kids that I
Wow.
that eight kids that God
Wow.
blessed us with to raise and that being and we was able to raise them because first of all, we had to come on. I had to come on one accord with him being the head of the home. He was the leader. He was the one that I was to submit myself under in the
Mm.
area of us raising these children. I never allowed myself to interfere with the principles that he set forth in the house for the children to go by. And we always, both of us, believe in respect. So
Mm.
if he said I did something that I maybe not like because of my children, we never discussed it in front of the kids.
Very
That was
good.
That's good.
that was
Very
something
good.
discussed on our own.
Right.
Because remember, I said we would never make the children suffer for what we brought them into.
Mm-hmm.
And so, to be on the real side, that's why we work so hard to keep married couples together because it is not an easy cakewalk.
No,
When you
Right.
ma'am.
when you bring in blended families together, that's a good ground for the devil to destroy a family, and especially
Hmm.
if you have not made Christ the head of your life and you're willing to
Right.
suffer.
That,
It's not an easy cakewalk. You gonna suffer. They are now in the 40s, they grown, we got grandchildren, we got great grandchildren.
Wow.
You know, it had been easy keeping them together. But God gave us the grace, wisdom.
Let me say this. When we started, we had no blueprint to go by.
Right.
Mm.
We it was trial and error.
Yep.
And I made a many errors. Thank God for a forgiving wife, you know.
Yes.
And God, I know for a fact from experience, God honors when you have a desire to do what's right. You may make some mistakes, but God will give you grace in that situation. Because our whole goal was to raise this family together without wounding anyone,
Mm.
Right.
you know. And so, uh, Bill Gothard, first man that speaks on principle that which revolutionized my life. And I got my wife, my mama, all my children. We spent our summers with Bill Gothard, but about 40 hours, 45 hours a week, every summer, which really helped all of us because at that time, uh, there was not many books out there on Bill's ministry.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So as you said, he was I had gotten under some teaching of Bill Gothard. He went to a conference, really. He said to get him some message, get a message to preach. And
You know,
when
you're going good looking for some good preaching material.
yeah, but when he got through, he went to the phone booth and called me crying and asked me to forgive him.
Yeah. Let me say this.
Yeah,
Uh, I went to Chicago to a pastor seminar, and my whole goal was to uh, get some good preaching material. And when that man got through talking about family and the man's responsibility to his wife, you see, I left home thinking that the problem with my marriage was Patricia Ann O'Neill. Uh, never made my mind that the problem was with me, you know. And so when that man got, I went in there about 6 feet tall. When that man got through preaching, I went and got down on my knees by the bed. I felt like 3 inches tall. And
Wow.
that was where I asked God to forgive me because the word of God showed me. I thought it was she was the problem, but I was the problem. And so it was an old Catholic church, and they turned the confession booths into telephone booths. And so I called Patricia from that uh, confession booth, and I told her I found out the problem with me, and I'm sorry. Could you please forgive me and give me another chance? And from there, and 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 she was quiet. She was quiet.
Wow.
I guess she said, "I've seen this picture before." But
Wow.
I came back home for about 2 weeks. You know, I was working those principles, and before I know it, I fell off the horse because it was in my head, but I had traveled 18 inches into my heart. But as a result of uh, praying and me and her making a decision to go after God, because during that time with those children, we was and we'll talk more about that. I really want to talk about Patricia, my children, your children, because a lot of folks
right,
that.
right.
But during that time, I we would arguing, and we could talk better on the telephone together.
Yeah, we was having marriage problems as a result of coming into the situation that we was in with the family thing. And I remember I had bought a book. I was going to teach him how he was supposed to treat me and make me number one and all that stuff. And he told me to get the book out of his hands. I'm tired of it. And he said, you need somebody else. And at that time, my mind jumped. Maybe you're right. I do need somebody else. And God spoke to me and said, he said, he's right. He said, give me you. And that's what happened. And we came together seeking God first, seeking Him for each one of our lives, which automatically begins to change the lives of the children.
So we
Mm.
both made a decision to go after God with all our hearts. Before we know it, we found ourselves coming together. You know,
Wow.
no, you can't go at one point and both of you going at one point and not end together. God will constantly bring you. And so that's the stage that go getting committed to God, being committed to His principles. That's what ends to cause the family to grow and to blend.
And I noticed how it was come under the authority. You know, I was acting authority, but it wasn't my heart because there was so many things that I saw that I felt that it was not right. And God dealt with me in the area of acting by faith and not by sight. Did not understand whether he's right or wrong. And it was just simple little things maybe in the house that I seen. And so instead of getting under the word and before I
Pastor Patricia, let me interrupt you for half
go
a
ahead, go
second.
ahead, go ahead.
I'm going to allow my engineer to talk to your team, and we're going to pull out for just a minute because we're getting a broken signal. So I'm
Okay,
going to let him talk to them and see if they can work out whatever that challenge is, because I think it's something right around that microphone. So I want to hear your story, and I think people need to hear it. So we're going to pull out for just a minute. He's going to talk to your team, and Pastor Jay and I'll just talk for just a few minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I, the thing I really wanted them to kind of share the history
Yes.
because they kind of met each other before they knew Christ, and
Before
so they were
Christ, for real,
yeah
BC.
yes yeah, and so and there were so many hurdles that they overcame during that time, and so I know she's sharing some of that, but I'm sure they're experiencing
Yes.
what we experience. It's kind of hard to understand
Yes. So I
what
wanted
they're
our
saying.
audience to be able to hear, because what the ingredients that she's sharing right now, these are groundbreaking truths.
I
I'm
agree.
talking about the heft of what she's sharing, what they've experienced, what they've lived through, and then you have to understand. So if they have been married 50 years, this was probably they're in their late 20s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mid to late 20s. So while we may have a lot of young couples, and I was thinking about this morning, Jill, while we may have a lot of young couples who are grappling with this challenge, and they're listening to an older couple, a more mature couple, but this lifespan, the time that it takes and the time that it has taken will take them, if they'll listen, it'll take them all the way back to the beginning,
Right.
and they'll see that they have the timelines in common.
Right.
You know, if these people were in their mid to late 20s, that means anybody that's in their mid to late 20s today who is having blended family challenges, early 30s, early marriage, whatever the case may be, this is for you. And it's what he was saying, I think, coming into it. He said he didn't have a blueprint.
Right. And you know, Pastor, that's something that all of the speakers have shared.
Sure.
There's no
Well, there's no blueprint for marriage.
right. There's no
I mean,
blueprint. There is a
well, you have the
an
outline
order
from
the
God,
scripture.
yes. But
But
when it comes to your
everyday life.
your everyday life,
Yeah.
and that specific couple who is living out an everyday experience, then you're gonna have to kind of matriculate through your history,
Right.
navigate through your own challenges, because each story is different.
Right.
Everyone came from a different set of parents. They lived in a different geography, a different zip code. The mindsets are different. They've had different amalgamated experiences that you bring to it. And I heard him say that they brought some challenges to the marriage. Both had two children when they came. Then they had a child together.
Two children
No,
together.
they had one child together, then they got married. Then they had another child.
Right,
So
right.
that's 2, 4, 6.
Six.
And then they had another child.
They adopted a child.
No, then they adopted a child. I thought,
Right.
no,
And
or
then-
then
and
they
then
took
the
on
relative- yeah.
the sister's
Sister's child.
child.
So
it's 8 children
children.
in an early marriage. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
That is a lot. And again, the idea is you don't have, who has a blueprint for that?
Right.
Now, the good thing that they did, they knew God knew. And when they got born again, then if I'm understanding him correctly, if I remember his story, I think it was Bill Gunther. Bill Gunther was the minister who was pouring into them. And he really went to the initial conference for one thing. And the minister started talking about family. And he was convicted. He heard something that started helping him to understand that God had a pattern and God has a format and a way that's supposed to be carried out. When he heard that, that's what I think I heard him say, and I've heard this testimony you have too many times before, that the conference was being held in an old converted Catholic church. And there was an old confessional that was there that had been converted to a phone booth. And he went there and called his wife and apologized for what he didn't know. And that's the thing. One of your favorite scriptures is Hosea 4:6.
Yeah, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge.
And it's in every aspect. It's not just in your own personal life. It's when you bring someone else into your life by way of dating or marriage. Then you have children. What you don't know can kill you, not just hurt you. It can terminate the situation. And then what I loved about what they said, they made a covenant that the children were not going to suffer for what they didn't know. And what they brought on as far as baggage and what they brought them into, because the children didn't ask to come, but they were adult enough to say, okay, it's our responsibility and we'll take it from here.
Right. Well, I think they've worked out that challenge. So let's get back into this with Doctors Willie B. and Patricia O'Neill. You guys are back?
Yes, y'all did that well.
So now,
Well, now we don't have any sound.
I can't hear them.
Yeah, there's no sound, engineer.
We're still having trouble hearing you.
No, still
We
can't
see
hear
you clearly, but we don't hear you.
Yeah, we see you clearly. Okay, they're still working it out. But the good thing about that, again, if I was Satan, I would try to sabotage this kind of information from going forth. I would do everything. I'd throw the kitchen sink, and I see that's what he's doing. But that's okay, because we understand we're not ignorant of Satan's devices, so we understand how this works.
It's so interesting you would say that, Pastor. I was thinking about that this morning as I was driving. Had a lot of appointments and things to do today. But I was thinking about the fact that one of the reasons the enemy fights marriage so much, number one, it's ordained of God. And then it's that sign of unity. He hates unity. He knows that the Bible talks about a grace that comes on a marriage that operates in unity. And I think our speakers talked about that on Tuesday a little bit. And then I heard Pastor Mike Moore mention that on yesterday. There is a grace that God has for the marriage when you can do it right, when you can come together as one. And it takes work. I mean,
yeah, you made me think of this passage of scripture when Mike was talking yesterday, and you're talking now. I had to look it up because I know Psalm 133, because the fight is over unity. Because unity, the scripture says, behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren, means men and women, to dwell together in unity. So unity is the subject.
Right.
And then he says unity is like the precious ointment upon the head, that ran down the beard, even Aaron's beard, that went down to the skirts of his garment. So we know Aaron was Israel's first high priest. So that means he's a type of Jesus Christ. So that means if you're going to come into Jesus Christ, one of the first things you have to understand that if his blessing is to come on your life, it's going to come through the auspices of unity. And so Satan is going to fight that, because that's the vehicle through which the blessing comes, primary vehicle. But then watch this. He says, he gives us another simile, as the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion, for there, the place of unity, the Lord commanded the blessing.
That's what couples need to understand. That's why you fight. That's why you stay in it. That's why you keep going. That's why you don't walk away. Because when you can get to that point of unity, God commands the blessing on that. And you know,
the blessing.
Yeah, the blessing. And you've been sharing so much about that. But there is the blessing that comes on a marriage, and I just think it's a beautiful thing when you can stick in it long enough to
reach
get
the
over
blessing,
the hurdles.
for the blessing to manifest.
And
we talked about the blessing. I just want to go over some of those definitions while we're still working out those
and related to marriage.
See, it's the thing. And that's the thing. It comes on you, your physical body. Man is a three-part being, your mind. Then obviously your spirit is blessed by God once you're born again. Then that blessing permeates its way into everything your hands are put to do, because that's the central blessing definition, that there's an empowerment from God for everything you do in life. And that's when people don't understand the struggle. It's over Satan fighting the blessing. He never wants people to walk in the blessing. The scripture says this for New Testament people. He said to Abram, he said, if you'll get out of your father's house and from among your kindred and go to a land that I'll show you, Genesis 12, he says, and there I will bless you. I will I will bless you, and I will bless everyone who blesses you, and I'll curse those who curse you. And in you shall all the families of the earth be blessed. And what's crazy is verse 4, that's 12, 1 through 3. The fourth verse says, and Abram, which was his name at the time, was 75 years of age when he left Haran, which means that simply because, and Job discovered this when he talked to Bildad, Eliphaz, and Zophar, he says, I listened to you all for 7 days and I said nothing because I thought that aged persons should speak before a young person. He says, but I realized that not every aged person has an understanding of God's wisdom or of the blessing.
Right.
Are we joined back by our
Yeah.
guest?
Can we hear you? See, I can't hear them.
Yes, I'm not getting any sound here. Is it us, brother engineer?
We're going to check. Give us just a moment. And we apologize to you who are tuned in for the live stream today. We apologize for those technical difficulties.
Yeah, we're going to go out and come back in and figure out what's going on with the sound because I'm not hearing anything. I don't hear anything on the sound.
Well, Pastor, let me ask you some questions then, since I got you here until we can get them together there. Okay, so females, typically, females to me appear to be the ones who fight the most for marriage. They fight the most for marriage most of the time. Every now and then it can flip the other way, but the majority of the time, I know in the people I've counseled, the people I speak with, primarily that woman is doing all she can to hold the marriage together. And then a lot of times it's almost if you are dealing with a man that is just set, that is edge. How can a woman permeate that wall, that barrier?
I think this, and I think that's an excellent question. I don't think it is that the woman fights more than the man. I think she fights in a different way for the marriage. And I don't think women really understand that there's a difference between the way a man is built and the way a woman is built. First of all, women are largely guided and they move about their energy is by way of their emotions. They're emotional creatures. And men are egotistical creatures. Their mantra for movement is really in their soulish realm. What makes a man, their panache.
Hello?
And so, yes.
Did you hear us?
We can hear
I can
you.
hear you.
All right.
Okay.
All right, we're back.
That's great. You did an excellent job. I mean, it's almost verbatim what we said. You got a photostatic memory.
Because you all have prayed for me and nurtured me so long. Every now and again, my mind does well. It does well. So thank you all. I
Yeah.
wanted you all to pick up right where you were, Pastor Pat,
You
however
was
you all want
going
to
to
Okay.
tell a
go.
story.
Okay. I was talking about the blending of the two families and how that we had a lot of struggles blending in the both families,
Right.
because when you bring blended families together, you're dealing with different DNA makeup.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with DNA makeup from my side of the family. You're dealing with DNA makeup from his side of the family.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was the situations in which we both came from where his oldest was very close to him, and my oldest was very close to me. But when we brought both of the families together, my oldest became the oldest of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
Wow.
so trying to establish authority and the person that you're going to leave in charge of the rest of the children, that becomes a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
because Pastor and myself had came together and decided that we're going to be one
Mm-hmm.
in discipline correction, then that helped out a whole lot when it came to the kids having problems, and that is them accepting one another
So
Mm-hmm.
into a blended
so
family.
let's explore that. Making a decision right off the bat that we was gonna be one. That we was
Mm-hmm.
not gonna allow the children to divide us because the children are only with us for 18 years. We got a lifetime together, and so we
Mm-hmm.
had to decide that,
That's right. That
make that commitment.
and the children had to know that we had made that commitment.
Right.
If I walked in the room on him and he was correcting one of mine or saying something to mine, if I thought it was wrong, I never opened my mouth. I never interfered
Right.
on what he said to that child because I'm a strong believer that if you open your mouth and you begin to say something, you breed ground for disrespect from that child.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So every one of the children that we had knew that I respected their father. Their father was the head, and he made the last decisions,
Mm-hmm.
whether they was right or wrong. I had to submit to the man that I had married. And because I made that decision, God many times turned a lot of situations that could have been a disaster for the marriage. God turning it around because I submitted and then I went and prayed.
And see,
And I
even
had to trust God.
and even if she felt that I was wrong, she waited to an opportune time to talk to me about it, and again gave me an
That's
opportunity to go
good.
back and correct it.
That's good.
Go on.
Yes, and that was not very easy, and especially as the children began to grow, and they began to mature, and the biggest one we had the problem out of was my daughter, which was the oldest, and see when we met each other, our kids was nothing but babies. We had like 4 years old, 5 years old, 4 years old, 3 years old, 2 years old. And so they was with us all the time. There's never was a time that on the weekend they wanted to be over here with the other children. Every summer, every holiday, they wanted to be here. But yet, many times we had situations to come up that through those situations could have divided us. But because we made such a commitment that if anybody gonna suffer, it gonna be us. So that we spent a lot of time communicating with one another.
Mm-hmm.
And so when my oldest daughter began to mature, she didn't feel that it was right for her to have to obey the rules that he had set forth. And I know you all have heard this before. Pastor was going after God like God was coming tomorrow, and he wanted his kids to be in that word. He wanted to raise up godly children before the Lord. And so one summer, he went through the house. He just came in like a whirlwind and took all the TVs, just took them out the wall and gave all of
You
them
gonna tell
Romans,
that too?
gave them Romans 6 chapter. You're going to learn this. And then he told me, you going to learn Romans 8:28 and 29. But I want you to know, I said, I am grown and I'm not your child. But something down on the inside of my heart would not let me not
I
go to
love it.
those scriptures. And I went to those scriptures and I privately studied those scriptures. And those scriptures set me free from a bitterness that I had from my childhood. Because my
Wow.
mother died and left me at the age of 13. And my father told me when my mother died, you and I gonna raise the rest of these children. And it was 9 children that she died and left, and I was the
Jesus.
oldest girl.
Right. And you were a
And
mother to them, actually, if
I
I
was
remember
a
correctly.
mother. I was
Right.
a mother. So I seen my mother and father in the area of dealing with authority because my mother submitted to my father's authority. My mother was a very strong-willed woman, and but she submitted to my father's authority. And so that help gave me a foundation in which to submit to him.
Mhm.
And so I often laugh about it, and I tell the church, I said, I was so crazy and I wanted God so much. I didn't realize I could have went and got the TV out the closet and washed it and then put it back in the closet. But I never, I never touched that television. I never
Wow.
touched that TV. And what happened
Wow.
was we would spend that time, the children spent that time studying. They spent that time playing with each other. They got to
Wow.
know one another
Talking bond.
better. Every Friday night, I had to fix a meal where we all sat down together and we talked and we shared. We was without a television for 5 years. And my
Ooh.
oldest told him, say, when
I
I
didn't
get
remember
home,
that part of the story. 5 years.
5 years, we were without a television. So much so we got used to it. And the children
Wow.
got used to it.
Wow.
They up in their 40s and 50s now. They laugh about it and talk about all the good times they had
Wow.
creating things to
And
entertain
God was blending
themselves.
the family all the time.
Huh?
God was blending you all together all
He
the
was
time.
blending us. He was blending
Wow.
us. But in any marriage, when it comes to blending the family, it starts with the husband and the wife. They
Yes,
got
ma'am.
to come together on one accord.
Yes, ma'am.
That was just what you all was saying about unity. When you are trying to build a family, that husband and wife got to be together, and everything orbits around that hub.
Yes,
And
sir.
when and I have to say it again, when the husband and wife start going toward God, sooner or later that your family goes toward
They
God,
falls in
they
line.
falls
Wow.
in line. You know,
Wow.
And it's not without a trouble. It's not without circumstances that coming up because Triola, the oldest one, she says that these are y'all principles. Y'all one got the Holy Ghost. I don't have it, so let me leave here. And I told her, I said, I cannot give you permission to leave. I'm not gonna give you the permission to leave. I said, but I want you to know, anytime you get ready to hit that door, there the door is. Mama not coming to look for you. I said, I'm not gonna look for you, especially when I know I had not done anything to
That's
send
right.
you out there. I
All
said, and
right.
if you so happen to go out there, you ain't old enough to get a job. I say is that your bill is paid up.
Wow.
Then I went in the bathroom and I prayed and I cried. But I want you to know God kept my child and
Wow.
changed my child. He
Praise God.
changed her so much
Wow.
so
right?
that when he wanted me in that church with him, in the building of that church and building that ministry, she took care of the rest of the kids. And when we
Wow.
would
Wow.
get home at night, the cover would be turned back and our pajamas would be
That's
that
right.
same child
That's right.
Wow.
that told him, "You not my daddy." And he got so angry with her one time, he told me, "I'm through with her. I'm taking my hands off of her."
Tell it
And
all,
I
baby.
said,
Tell
"No,
it all.
you not." I said, "You still gonna be an umbrella of protection for her."
Yes, you did.
I said, "You
Wow.
still gonna stand up and you gonna discipline her." And let me tell you what he did. He took her out at that time, we couldn't wear no pants or nothing like that. He took us, you said tell the story, tell the whole story.
Tell the
He
story.
took us
Tell the
out
story.
of everything. He took us out
Oh,
of it. And he took her out of her jeans. But when she didn't like it, because he seen an older man riding up the street picking at
Mm.
his daughter. And he
Wow.
didn't like it because those jeans were so tight. He took her to Birmingham, bought her a whole new set of clothes. And when she would come home from school, she didn't want to speak. I said, don't make her. She's going through. I said, she gonna be okay. Just long as she don't disrespect you. I said, she gonna be all right. And after so many months, she came home and she started talking about the respect that she was getting from the young men. And they would tell the other young men, you can't say that in front of Triola Ellis. You can't say that in front of her. They began to admire her dressing because she started dressing differently.
and the other
Wow.
girls start following suit.
And the other
Wow.
Wow.
children, that's right, they followed suit. But that same child Before she died and left this earth, she wrote her father a
Yeah.
letter and she told him, she said, Daddy, she said, I had a biological father. She said, but when it came to a nurturer, you was my nurturer. I want you to
Wow.
know
Wow.
you were my hero. She
Wow.
loved him when nobody thought she had another father. She grew up to respect him. And she said, because there were times when you could have thrown me out your house, but you love me. He would, on Valentine's, he would take roses to the school, candy to the school, leave it at the desk for her to come and get it. And that made her
Wow.
feel special.
That's powerful.
And
That is
see,
so
as
powerful.
parents, sometimes when we get blended families, before we can begin to bring them together, we got to show them that we love them.
That's right.
Right.
That is so good.
Hmm.
And
That is
Well,
so
love,
good.
Dr.
Go on.
Patricia, I want to ask you something. They don't quite make women like you in this day and time. Women don't even like that word submit.
no, they don't.
No, that's a
That's a
taboo word
yeah,
now.
yeah,
Yeah.
taboo.
So
I
what
guess because they don't really understand uh, the full definition of submitting, or the theological protection that comes,
And the
Wow.
blessing and the blessings
that
that
comes,
come along with it.
and
Well, help us with that, Dr. O'Neill.
huh?
Submission from a biblical perspective. How do you see that?
Well, I see it as God's divine order, and see, a lot of men want to make the woman follow suit based on what the word says. But when he does what God said, men, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. When that woman recognized that you're willing to die for her, yield your rights for her, you have a right to be respected. You have a right to be understood. You have a right to be appreciated. But can you forego that right in order that your family may live? The Bible says, if
Wow.
any man come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. What do men do on crosses? They die.
Die.
And it's only when that death come forth that woman began to submit to that husband, because she's
Wow.
know that he loved me, because he's willing to die. You see, a wife can't see herself until that man die.
Wow. That is
All
so
she
that's
powerful
good.
sees,
right there.
you know.
That's
And
good. You
Go
need to
ahead.
keep you
Keep
need to
going.
keep talking.
Yeah, keep going.
You need to keep that going.
Yeah,
Keep
yeah,
going, sir.
yeah. Because as long as I was making them pray, and I got them snatching a knot in them uh, at the door, trying to. And they
yeah,
said, "Get your hand off me!"
yeah, we're trying to pray every morning before the kids go
Go to
off to
school,
school.
right? And they got all kind of attitudes. But when I said, "God, forgive me for not being the husband and the father that my kids need me to be, Lord, I have missed it. Lord, teach me how to be more patient and kind and loving in everything I do. Before I can get through, my children will say, You ain't so bad, Dad. You ain't so bad." Their whole attitude changed because I chose to use the switch on myself rather than on
Mm,
them. You know,
mm.
when man deserved to die, I tell a story all the time when I talk about death, about this father was going about to discipline his son for something he did. And he told him, going out to the woodshed, I'll be on. And when he got out to the woodshed, he told his son to turn your back. And he went to go down on his son with the strap. And he heard the belt, but he never felt the lick. But he could hear it hidden flesh. And when he turned around, he realized that his daddy was whipping himself. That's what Jesus did at Calvary.
Mm,
We deserved the whipping, but he paid it,
he paid the price.
the price. And when that father began to pay that price, it's evident, you know, whenever you go into a home that they've been cooking fish, you can tell it for 2 or 3 days. It's all in the curtains. When you
Yes.
go into a home where death is being displayed, you can feel it.
You feel the love.
You can feel the love. People come over your house and say, "I don't want to go home. It's just so much peace here." But somebody had to pay the price for that peace, you
That's
know.
good.
You know, and so I tease my guy friends. I said, "You go home and die for your house, and then you can stay there. You don't have to stay with my house." Because one of the saddest things, Pastor, is to build a nice home and put all kind of furniture in it and nice cars and no peace in
No
the
peace
house.
in the
Yes,
house.
You
Right.
sir.
know,
Yes, sir.
you know.
Yes, sir.
The
Yes, sir.
and to have peace takes death.
Yeah.
Mm.
And you don't always want to die. I have men now that I've mentored, and uh, 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 they are always, when I'm talking about death, they say, "Well, what about my wife? What about Angela? What about this? You always telling me I got to die." And I got ministers under me. Boy, they cut up so real bad. They don't. You wouldn't think the minister would cut up about
No,
dying.
I would. Yes, sir. I believe you.
And but when they finally get the principle,
Mm.
one lady left her husband, and he was a minister, and she joined the church, and then later, uh, most of his members left. He ended up coming on over there with me too, and they was arguing all the time. I'm trying to counsel with them, and I'm adamant when I talk about death and yielding your rights, and so when she would get in the car with him, she like trying to push the driver's side door out, way away from him. So one day they came to see me years later, and guess what? She was all up on him.
Mm.
Oh,
She was all up on. I said, "What happened?" He said, "Man, I finally understood what you talking about death. I
Mm.
finally understood. If a man would dramatize the Jesus kind of death, that man will win his wife, and his wife will give him his kids."
Yes.
Mm.
mm,
Yeah,
that's
Mm.
oh,
because
that's
Wow.
good.
it was so important for us to get the blended family together because now we got grandchildren. See,
Mm.
if you don't get it together with the children, then that same thing gonna
Let
be
me say,
passed on down.
that night we was out there in the car talking. We
Yeah.
were trying to get some understanding,
And
and
he
I said,
said, "Oh well, one
"They'll be
day it'll be
grown.
all over with.
They'll
Now
be
they'll be
grown."
grown." I said, "No, it won't." I said, "Cause you got your grandchildren coming along,
Wow. Wow.
And so if
so
you don't get it right in that first circle, it's gonna
it's
be
gonna be
even worse
passed on
in that
down
second circle.
into the
Well,
grandchildren."
I'm hearing something in my spirit as you all are talking. The body of Christ is a blended family.
Yes,
The
Very
body
much
of
so.
Christ is a
Get
blended
that.
family. So
Shake that tree
if
again.
we don't understand this dynamic, it will be it could jeopardize what God wants to do in the earth because everyone comes from somewhere differently
that's
than
right.
the other persons. And if you don't understand what blending is, and then moreover, there are so many couples today. The norm really is, Judith, somebody has children from someone else
That's
that is
right.
marrying someone else. That's really the norm in the situation
It sure
because
That's right.
is.
to think that two people are going to be married and neither one of them have children from other relationship from another baby mama or baby daddy,
Right.
that's out of the thought
You're
That's
process.
right.
right. You're right.
To really understand you all's dynamic, I believe God possibly set you all in the earth as God always does, to run ahead of what would catch up later.
Okay.
So that the dynamic that you all lived out, people would begin to have a model. They would see a blueprint. They would see, and then even in the case more specifically of people of color, that black
Yes.
people could
Yes.
carry this out with the grace of God on their lives and see success because we know you all and you all over the years you've never changed and if people met you they wouldn't know but we testify. You all are successful.
Right.
To our audience, they low key. They don't make any noise. We talking to some seriously successful people.
Well, the fact that you've been able to be together in a blended situation for 50
Yes,
years,
yes,
that's a
Yes.
success.
that is a true
That's a
success.
success.
And
And the
they
Yeah.
only
joy, all of my children are still with me in church.
wow,
They're raising
Wow.
us families, the blended one.
Yeah, those
Tracy could have ran away, William and all, but they're still there.
all of them. And
And
they
I'm a
working
graduate, and
and
they're
they
making
working together.
I,
Tracy
I
and we and Derek. They
Yeah,
as a team.
yeah.
wow.
Hmm.
And I have to tell this story. I can't remember where I was, but Dr. Pat and I talked about this.
Yes.
We met up somewhere, and their son, came to my rescue. I was leaving Bessemer, going somewhere in Birmingham. I don't even know if it was church service or what, but it was like a 8 o'clock night. It was like this time of year. It was cold and dark, and my tire went flat. And I'm
That's,
out trying to change my tire. Next thing I know, this gentleman a young
that
man
was my
pulls up.
nephew.
Yeah,
That
Esther.
was your nephew. That was
That's
your
my
nephew.
nephew.
Go
He
tell the
pulled
story.
up and said, "Hey, Pastor Matthews." Now I didn't know, and you know how I roll, so I'm getting prepared for the worst, just in case. And he was so calm, and he walked up to me, looked right in my eyes. He said, "I know who you are." He said, "I'm gonna change your tire for you." He said, "You're not going." I said, "No, man, I'm good. I'm all right." He said, "No, you're not gonna change that tire. I'm gonna change this tire for you." He said, "You all dressed up. I had on the suit tie." He got out there, got on that ground, and changed my tire. And I tried to pay him, and he would not let me. You know, I can be forceful, not that guy. And I'm telling you, it was a reflection of what he told me later who he was, and I said, "Oh man," I said, "It makes sense now." It's a reflection of what you all instilled in the family dynamic,
Right.
because as time has gone on, we got to know other members of the family, your sister,
Right.
Pastor Pat, and so it's just what God did with you all started something that was a ripple effect for the rest of the family,
It
and
was. It
it's
really
been amazing.
was.
It's been amazing to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that same young man today, I think he told you, just pray for me.
Yeah, he did. And we
And
prayed right
he
there. He told
and
me what the
he
situation was and asked me to pray for him.
well, I want you to know he's a preaching motor scooter.
Wow.
He
When he go to the
is.
prison, he
Oh
empties
my
the jail
God.
cells out. They all come, and
Wow.
he's dynamic in our church.
Yes. You
Wow.
talking about
Wow.
love God and
Wow.
very
Wow.
transparent about what God done brought him from. And
Yes.
God has brought him out. He brought him out of prison. He done
Yes.
promoted him to the captain of the when they go off and they pray for
Oh
people
yeah,
and stuff down there in Bessemer.
yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
he's just a totally different person. And he's
Wow.
sitting up under that
He,
ministry at that church. And he has a family now. He
Wow.
married and has two more kids. And
That's
those
amazing.
kids
a
are
wonderful
growing
wife.
up. One of them
That's
meets me
amazing.
every Sunday and opens the door for me. And I can
Wow.
just see that the effect of having Christ in our life at such an
Yes.
early age
Yes.
and was willing to suffer, bring the kids together, suffer the things we went through. Now we see it affecting our own coming generation.
Mhm.
Wow.
Affecting our own coming generation.
Yeah, we're
And so
about
your
to
family.
ordain him as a elder in the church now.
Wow. So how many generations are there in you all's family now? Your family, yourselves, your children, their
Uh,
children.
we just had great
And we
grandchildren.
just had two great grandbabies. We got
Wow.
two great grandbabies. His first set
Uh-huh.
biological grandchildren. I
Wow.
already had three biological grandchildren of my own. So now we got five great grandchildren and got another one on the way.
And and
Oh, wow.
Well,
you know, I
congratulations.
got I got three granddaughters fixing to get married, doing it God's way, and they
Oh
right
my,
there in the church, working in the youth ministry, helping me.
that's powerful.
Man, all that would not be had not we made a decision years ago to say yes to the Lord and allow Him to take us on a trip, and that trip has changed our lives.
And oh
That is
my God, you talking about blessings? God has blessed our. We got three. We got grown granddaughters. Like one, the oldest one, she's going to be 32 in August. One going to be 31. Raylan just turned 24. She was working for the Falcons. I had one that was the
Right, right.
head HR for a bunch of lawyers, and God blessed her with a husband, and she got married last year. I got another one. She's in Texas with her husband.
They
They
all
supposed to
making
be.
$100,000 jobs.
I
They got
mean, God just
wow,
oh
six-figure
my
jobs.
God.
That's
And from
crazy.
where we started
from
from the
nothing. We
project.
was poor
We was in the project, shacking, drinking Gibber's gin, and eating
and
church's chicken.
playing
And
with.
playing
Playing
bid
bid
whiz.
whist.
And playing.
And I
I don't
love
want
to
you to forget
tell
that
this.
part of the story.
Yeah, I love to tell that story because I
That's
want
right.
people to see how God can change your life, the way He can bring you from.
And like you
Yes,
say all the time, the
absolutely,
word works. If you work it,
absolutely,
it'll work.
absolutely.
It'll change your life. And the reason you got to see more in order to want more. And there's
Right.
so
Mm.
many people, that I go back to my old community still doing the same thing they was doing
That you
when I
left them
left.
doing 40 years ago. Yes.
You know. And
That's so
and so
amazing.
I thank you for giving us the opportunity to tell our story. Uh,
Uh,
Yes.
every time we tell it, we get blessed,
Yes.
and it makes me want to go back to work even more.
praise God. Praise God.
Yeah.
Thank you
Eh,
all so much for sharing with us today. This has been such a blessing. I'm glad we worked our way through
Yes.
the
Yes.
interference of the enemy, but we appreciate you all so much, and we've just learned so much from you all through the years. And I'm telling you, Pastor O'Neill, you almost have me in tears today. I can't get over that image of that man you're talking about. That was powerful.
Yes.
That was powerful. I don't think
Yes.
I've ever heard it
No, I
put that way.
never heard that story
I
like
don't think
that,
so.
but it's very graphic and very demonstrative of what has to happen. And there can be no
Yes.
resurrection if there hasn't been a death.
Say it. Yes, sir.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hallelujah, man.
Yes.
Go on, preach.
Yes.
There can be no.
I often, I often think about you, Pastor Matthews. I remember when Pastor Mincy brought you and Pastor together. He told
Yes,
Pastor, "I got a young man that I want you to meet."
yes,
I
yes,
never
man.
forget that, and that been some years ago.
It's been some years ago, and we hadn't been in Birmingham long then. And after we met you all, I mean, because we had been watching you all from afar, because I knew God was speaking something different to me. And I tell Pastor O'Neill all the time, when you all built that church and built
Yeah.
it debt free, and I saw the struggle. I remember, when people stole all of the
Yeah.
Yes.
You know
materials
the
that were out
story.
there, and then you got back in there, and then you didn't lose your membership
Mm-mm.
because you weren't driving them and you weren't
Mm-mm.
whipping them. And I saw the same thing that you were practicing in your family. I saw you practicing it at the church.
Right.
And I saw that
Mm.
thing just keep swelling and it got crazy. And you couldn't go to Mount Canaan and not sense the sincere, severe presence of God. You
God,
couldn't. I
praise
remember
God.
what was the annual meeting they would have every
Impact.
year?
Impact.
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 Impact, man. Impact was the city of Birmingham. And it
Yes.
started from these two people to our audience who made a decision in challenging times to go after God. And I watched them and
Yes.
it blessed us and and they never changed as far as the way God was blessing them, the way God was increasing. And they're still that way today. And Pastor Jay and I, we just love them so much, and we try to tell them as much as we can. And I'm gonna send them something after this.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
already told us they want to send them nothing, but they get ready to. But that's their heart, and we just appreciate them.
You all are so
Hey,
sweet.
the opportunity that you all have just gave us to share with your audience is worth more than money.
Thank you, sir.
When you have a gift or have a story, you need somewhere to tell it. I want to say this to my son William, and he's down there in Georgia.
Yeah, I thought he was in
For,
Georgia somewhere.
yeah, uh,
And he's a
Fairborn,
pastor, is he not?
He's a
Yeah,
pastor,
Pastor.
Pastor.
Yes.
What's
and
the name of
he's
his
about
church
to
there?
break. Yeah, the name
Living
is Living
Word.
Word,
Hmm.
and he's about to break ground. They're building his church debt
Debt
free
free.
Wow. We
on
gonna pray for
7 acres of land in right in the
him.
city of Fairborn.
Wow.
He said, "Dad, I couldn't do it no other way because I saw God do it for you."
That's the
You
point.
know,
That's the
and
point.
so your children, the technician, your children working in ministry with
Yes.
you, they
Yes.
had to
Yes.
see something.
Yes.
They had to see something. Your wife there, been there for all these years, never
Years.
wavered.
Yes, sir. Well, we,
and we
we had
and,
great examples in the two of you all, and we love you all so much. I think Pastor Jay's not going to try to let this one end because
yeah.
Yes.
we're sensing something right here, but we've got to wrap it up. And
Okay.
just tell you all we love you, and you all will be hearing from us. I think there's a drawing she has to do before we get off of
Okay.
the stream with you all.
We've been doing a drawing because we wanted to kind of force some couple time, a date night, and so we're doing a drawing each day for a $200 gift card to the restaurant of your choice.
Oh,
And
that's
so
sweet.
we're picking a name now. Cheryl Campbell. Congratulations to Frank and Cheryl Campbell. You all can contact Janice Sims and let her know what restaurant you'd like to go to, and we'll give you a e-gift card for that restaurant. Good people, we know them well. But I can't talk too much today because I'm like so full. So I just want to
Great.
tell you, I truly appreciate this session today.
But
Thank y'all.
thank you all so much. And we enjoy being
Oh,
with
yes,
you
we
all.
did. Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Thank you all. We
Thank
love
you,
you, and
man.
we'll talk soon.
Okay, then.
Thank you.
Keep us
Blessings on your
lifted up
ministry.
in your
Sure thing.
prayers.
Sure
All
thing.
right.
And
Bye
same
bye.
here.
Okay.